Okay, perfect. I see still people connecting, but let's get started. In the meantime, we have two great speakers for our session today. That is going to focus on research assessment and how it is changing over time. With a specific focus on elements of open responsible research and innovation. We are going to give you an introduction of all these topics, all this terminology that we are using. Just a very brief introduction. My name is Marzia Mazzonetto. I'm the CEO of a Brussels-based company called Stickydot, specialized in multi-stakeholder engagement, and we are involved in this EU-funded initiative called Reinforcing, and co-organizing these sessions together with the project coordinator. This is the second of a series of sessions where we are going to dig deeper into certain aspects of open responsible research innovation and how it is evolving. Before we give the floor to our invited speakers, I wanted to introduce you to Angela Simone from the Bassetti Foundation, who is the coordinator of the Reinforcing project, and I would like to invite Angela to say a few words just to let you know within which context this session are happening, also because we have some opportunities available at the moment.
Thank you very much, Marzia, and welcome to everyone. I'm Angela Simone. I'm the coordinator on behalf of Bassetti Foundation of the Reinforcing project. Just a few words to introduce the scope and objectives of Reinforcing, which are also the objective behind the concept of the event today. Reinforcing is a project with the aim of mainstreaming the concept and the practices of open and responsible research and innovation. So after many years, many initiatives and projects also funded by the European Commission in the previous frameworks, programs, but also other initiatives beyond Europe, we have a bulk of knowledge and practices on how to implement open science and responsible research and innovation. And so Reinforcing is the place to collect all this knowledge, to collect resources, best practices, and tools that could be useful for organizations, institutions, territories that would like to embark on the open and responsible research and innovation journey. So you can find in our website, which is a virtual platform, resources to accompany you and your institutions and your organization to embark on open responsible research and innovation. If you are a newcomer, so it is your first experience in open science, responsible research and innovation, but also to enhance your activities and your practices on open responsible research and innovation, thanks to the services that are on our platform. Together with this idea or having a place for the community of open responsible research and innovation, and we are in constant dialogue with our community, so all the enablers of open responsible research and innovation. We have also the opportunity to support financially some small projects with small grants, thanks to a cascading grant mechanism. We have 7 rounds of open call with different topics around open responsible research and innovation. And currently, we have an open call on responsible digitalization. So for organizations and institutions that would like to embed activities of responsible digitalization for 1 year. We also have an info webinar planned for next Friday. So I really invite you all to join the conversation if you would like to have more details and information about the current call. but you can also find, of course, all the elements and details on our website. We have a section dedicated to grants. Of course, we are not just relying on the past of open responsible research and innovation, but we are looking ahead. And so we would like that open responsible research and innovation will remain in the future and potentially also in the next framework program with other practices across the era. And so for these events, these series events are thought to exchange with key people, key representatives of open, responsible research and innovation in practice, and see how the concept and the practices of ORRI, of open science and responsible research and innovation, are evolving and are dialoguing with further concept and further best practices. So I'm very honored and glad to join this conversation today with our speakers. And after the dialogue with Marcia, who will coordinate the conversation, I hope to have the space to interact together with the audience with them. So thank you very much for the moment.
Thank you very much, Angela. I'm really happy to see so many of you connected. We are going to start this conversation with our two invited speakers today. Please don't hesitate to write your questions in the chat at any time or comments, and we will make sure to address them. So, as I mentioned before, these sessions are focusing on different aspects of how this field is evolving. And one of the discussions that has been going on for a very long time is about how to strengthen elements of open, responsible research innovation within the way that research is assessed. To discuss this, we have two guests today. We have with us Georgios Papanagnou from the European Commission. He's policy officer on open science at the DG Research and Innovation, as well as Bianca Langhout-van, who is program manager at the Erasmus University in Rotterdam in the Netherlands, and who is involved in some really interesting initiatives, both within the university and also more at national level, on highlighting how to evaluate societal impact and recognizing and valuing other elements than the typical ones within a research assessment. But before we go into your experience and looking a bit into what is changing, let's have a look first at how and what is research assessment at the moment. Maybe it might not be so clear to all of us. So let's try to contextualize a bit what we mean by research assessment. And for this, we'd like to have both views. So first of all, from you, Georgios, what is the vision of research assessment more at the European level? And we know that there are some big initiatives happening also around all this to try to make the approach to research assessment more uniform within Europe. So can you let us know a bit how research assessment is framed at the European level?
Yeah, thanks, Marcia, and thanks to everyone for being here today. Research assessment, I think all of you would be able to contextualize this and understand the application of it. Of course, we work from the side of the European Commission on practices and policy initiatives that have to do with how researchers themselves, but also research proposals, research plans are assessed. We don't work so much on the angle of assessing ranking universities, etc., through the research output, but largely focusing on the individual level and that of research material proposals for funding, etc. The goal is, of course, to change a bit the way that researchers are valorized, recognized, and rewarded, and also how research as a content in terms of content is equally perceived and also recognized and rewarded. I think you are all aware that presently the research assessment system is very largely based on publications in journals, and especially prestigious journals, and this is quantified through various indexes or indicators. I mean, the ones that are the most obvious ones come to mind are the Journal Impact Factor, the Age Index, and other similar ones. But also what passes through private platforms in terms of being able to have access to research output, and in order to be able to assess the contributions of different researchers. So largely the aim is, and this is something that the Commission has been working on for a while now, and this was the driving force of working together with stakeholders to develop the Coalition for the Reform of Research Assessment, the organization of CoARA, which started a few years back and took shape in 2022, if I'm not mistaken, with the agreement on research assessment. And there, indeed, the goal is to move away from this situation where everything is characterized by incessant competition amongst researchers on the basis of publications, and to be able to move into a new system whereby researchers are assessed on the basis of the intrinsic qualities of the research itself, but also on the basis of the diverse contributions and activities that they perform. So one of the objectives which aligns to that is to generally recognize and valorize all the large gamut of activities, contributions, and practices that researchers engage in. That includes, of course, teaching, leadership, mentoring, publishing in different venues, producing publications that are not the standard peer-reviewed ones, conducting public outreach, engaging in open science practices, etc. And the other angle, which I mean I kind of implied already, but to be more precise, is that we want all the system to be predominantly based on qualitative peer review in order to be able to, let's say, isolate to the degree possible the quality of the research proposed, and to be able to assess it on its own merit and on its own value, and not be influenced by high or low GIF, etc. And in that frame to contribute and facilitate and enhance the capacities, institutional capacities in research performing and research funding organizations, to be able to set this in motion, to be able to put these processes in place in their organizations and in the structures that would allow and facilitate this kind of more qualitative peer review based assessment, and which of course would lead to greater valorization of the work of researchers, and especially, of course, the work of researchers that are not, let's say, the more established ones, but in particular, let's say, early career researchers or researchers who contribute in ways that are not necessarily linked to publications in Nature or whatever, but for example, contribute in multiple other ways by developing software, or by working with citizens, or by delivering policy expertise, or in any case, generally all the tasks that or by conducting peer review, all the tasks that researchers and academics perform, and which up to now in many ways are not recognized. So this is largely the stimulus, the idea, the core idea of this policy work. And we have contributed, of course, to developing the Coalition for the Reform of Research Assessment, and we participate in its operations. We also contribute our funding the organization, and also we have set in motion in parallel, as part of the ERA policy agenda, we have inscribed policy actions. In the previous ERA policy agenda in 22-24, we had an action on reforming research assessment, and this is carried over to the new ERA policy agenda 25-27, and now the action has become something that is termed a structural policy, which in a few words just means that it's an issue that has a relative importance and weight in the structure and foci of the ERA policy agenda, amongst the foci of the ERA policy agenda, and which is there, let's say, to stay as a priority for the Commission, but also at an EU level, which involves, of course, national communities, member states, authorities, and stakeholders. So this is more or less the framework that we are working on, also in terms of policy, and at the same time, like I mentioned, through the Horizon Europe Work Programme, we support the Coalition for the Research Assessment. We also support the promotion of institutional changes in individual organizations through cascade funding. And at the same time, we fund other actions that from time to time try to capture the evidence in that area, so that we can base our future steps on concrete learnings and lessons, and be able to say this has been a bottleneck, this has been a problem, these solutions seem to have worked in order to promote our goals, these solutions have worked well, and but have produced also maybe some unintended consequences. Generally, we also want to capture that that evidence angle. I think this is more or less what we are working on, and happy to discuss with you.
Thank you very much, Georgios, for this very, very comprehensive description of what is happening. There is really a lot of food for thoughts there already. Keep an eye on the chat. We will be putting links there as things, initiatives, etc. are mentioned, so that you have some references. Now, before we go more concretely into also what is changing, Bianca, how does this translate more locally? So within the context of a university, for example, what is the typical research assessment framework, let's say?
Yeah, thank you, Marcia, and it's really nice to be here as well. So I can echo what was already presented, of course. So if you look at research assessment in the Dutch university landscape, it looks a lot the same as in many other countries. So universities are still some sort of ivory towers with a lot of inside-out thinking, in which academics have to do multiple types of activities, not only in the domain of research, but also in the domain of education, leadership / management, engagement and impact, and for the university medical centers, also clinical care responsibilities. So they do everything. In Dutch, we often say they are the five-legged sheep, or the jack of all trades. But when it comes to research assessment, for example, when they want to be put up for promotion, the focus is really on their research-related activities. And not only to the activities, but even more specifically to the outputs that they create. So how much funding did they acquire? How many publications, scientific publications do they have? In what type of journals? And what is their citation index? That is where we come from. It would be a lie to say that it's already completely changed, but it is slowly changing within the academic landscape in the Netherlands, towards a more open, holistic view in which also team science and open and responsible science have an important role. So that's the dynamic a bit.
Yeah. So yes, so as you say, so let's look a little bit at what is changing. It was already mentioned a bit by both of you, but we would like to hear a bit with specifically from the point of view of these open, responsible research innovation practices, which are at the core of reinforcing. Of course, within open, responsible research innovation, we include many things. So what the European Commission has framed in the past as, on one side, responsible research and innovation and all its components. So citizen engagement, gender balance, governance, science education, etc., but also the open element, the open science element. So of course, the most obvious one being open access, but we know that within the context of the European Commission, open science means much more than that. And therefore, in general, I think the focus here is very strongly on elements of societal engagement and openness to society. So let's maybe go again into the more the European level. We know that also CoARA has been a bit pushing in this direction. What are maybe, Georgios, some elements that we can share of this shift in support of this open science and societal engagement elements?
I mean, at Horizon Europe, we have put an emphasis on this kind of issue, on this aspect. I mean, we moved to a bit to a different system from Horizon 2020, where now citizen engagement is more strategically embedded and is a more strategic feature of the whole framework program. And therefore it is kind of an underlying element, or in any case, an element that should be included across the board, and especially in the clusters. At the same time, I mean, we also colleagues work on the gender issues and the ethics issues, which are also part of the RRI and the science communication. So we have kind of made all of these issues more transversal, but with a more strategic orientation, because before they were also cross-cutting, but now, I mean, it's a key principle of the framework program. At the same time, I mean, we work with colleagues. I mean, as you probably know, open science in its different practices, but also including public engagement, which is more relevant for you today, is part of the methodology assessment for the Horizon Europe, is part of the excellence criterion, which has been a significant innovation. And I think without necessarily advocating for a paradigm shift that would necessarily emulate this, but at the same time, it is recognized open science, at least in open science practices, by the CoARA community as a goal that is in alignment with the general objectives of the coalition and of the movement. So we work with colleagues and with institutions in member states and with stakeholders in the working groups that we engage in on these lines. That is to say, to see how much the elements of open science, but also responsible or engagement, or in any case, all the nexus, let's say, or parts of the nexus that constituted the RRI. We work with colleagues from stakeholders to see how much of that has taken shape in their organizations, and what kind of reforms, what kind of innovations, what kind of measures, what kind of support, or in any case, how this could be pushed forward and improved, or in any case, grow in the future as part of the steps to make the assessment of research recognized and more diverse elements and practices of research. So these are the angles. I mean, I hope I answer your question. These are the angles that we work on kind of promoting the goals of open science or open responsible research through the angle of public engagement. Yeah, we just try to have them included as part of the narrative and policy and institutional work that we do with stakeholders in the EU.
Yeah, thank you very much, Georgios. And I think this connects really nicely to the examples that Bianca can share with us. There is some really interesting changes happening. First of all, within the university we're involved, but as well more on a hopefully national level. For me, I have had the possibility to come across these experiences that you shared, Bianca, within the context of another initiatives where I have been involved, and it was really, really interesting and inspiring to hear. Probably for me was one of the first time I heard of a university doing such a shift. And it would be interesting also later in the conversation with the participants to hear if you know of any similar experiences. So this, Bianca, please share with us as much as you can about how you are trying to make this shift concrete within your environment.
Yes, I'm gonna try. Thank you. So in the chat, I will already share a bunch of links where you can find more information about the local developments, but also on some of the national developments that are going on within the Netherlands. So I think the biggest development that I'm working on is called Recognition and Rewards. It's a national program in which all knowledge institutes are participating. So the universities, the university medical centers, the research institutes, and the two big funding agencies. And already in 2019, they concluded together this way how we recognize, appreciate, and reward academic work needs to change. And they decided to write a position paper, which is called Room for Everyone's Talent. And in that position paper, the vision and ambition was explained of the Recognition and Rewards program. And it includes 5 specific goals that should help to change, to really create this change. And from there on, all the participating knowledge institutes started to operationalize, develop, implement the ideas behind recognition and rewards within their own context. So every university has a project lead on recognition and rewards. Sometimes this is a dedicated position. Sometimes it's someone within HR or within one of the policy departments that has the responsibility to, make it happen. And in parallel, there's a national program coordinated by the universities of the Netherlands. And also there is a program manager and a small team to bring all the local initiatives together to foster knowledge sharing, etc. So it's a quite big movement in the Netherlands, and it's running now for, I think 5 years. Some of the main goals really fit with the idea of reforming research assessment, the movements around open and responsible science, and also innovation. One of the goals is to diversify and vitalize career path of academics. So far, as I said, everyone is doing everything, but when it comes to evaluation or assessment, what counts most is research-related activities. And that also means that you can only build a career in academia when you are an excellent, top-of-the-notch researcher. And that also means that we lose a lot of talented people who have a passion for education-related activities, for open and responsible science, for engagement or impact-related activities. They often leave academia because they cannot build a career within academia. And by developing a diverse career path in which it is possible to put an accent on one of the domains of academic work, we try to create a broader diversity of possible career path. One of the mistakes that people often have is that then everyone can become a full professor, and you don't have to do some of the domains. That's not the case. So we all agreed in the Netherlands that having research and education activities in the core is important. But what you see happening is that what is being evaluated in yearly evaluation conversations or in promotion procedures is adjusted according to the focus that an academic has. So that's one of the big developments we are working on. The other one is trying to have a more qualitative perspective instead of a very quantitative perspective. So all institutes discourage the use of journal impact factor and age index and the more traditional quantitative indicators. And almost all institutes use narratives in much more situations. So, for example, in promotion procedures, recruitment and selection conversations, but also the yearly evaluation conversations that employees have with their supervisor in our institute are all narrative based, not only for the academic staff, but also for the professional service staff. So that's also an important one we are working on. And then I think a third one that is related to, well, what we are talking about here is stimulating open and responsible science. And the nuance that I want to put in with that one is that it's not necessarily encouraging more open and responsible science practices, because many knowledge institutes in the Netherlands have a separate program for that. But at least making sure that if we do encourage these kind of activities, that people also get recognized and appreciated and rewarded for it, so that they don't feel it's on top of everything they do, but that it's really part of their set of activities, and that they get recognized and appreciated for it. And if they do a lot in the domain of open and responsible science, that expectations in other domains are adjusted. So I think that are three developments or action lines that come out of the position paper, and that all the knowledge institutes are working on. Also at Erasmus University, we are working on these action lines most pronounced or most actively. And that can be quite a challenge. It's not an easy change, but I don't know, Marcia, if you already want me to talk about that part.
Let's see. I'm just keeping an eye in the chat, because we have planned a third round of questions to go even deeper into these aspects, looking into the future, as you mentioned. But at the same time, I wanted to see if at this stage anyone has any questions or comments. I just see a question in the chat from Michaela asking if we could share the link to the societal impact toolbox. I think we can look into it and quickly share the link. But meanwhile, I think the text got cut a little bit, Bianca, because of the length on Zoom. And thank you so much for preparing this amazing list of links. Here it goes. Perfect. Please don't be shy. If you have any questions or comments, do raise your hands. You can, if you're too shy to show yourself, you can post them in the chat. Otherwise, you can, of course, put them in. You can raise your hand and just take part in the conversation.
Oh, and maybe, Marcia, it would be good for me to explain the link between the evaluating societal impact work that I'm involved in and recognition and rewards.
Yes.
So specifically, Erasmus University Rotterdam has a strong ambition on creating positive societal impact. So a few years ago, they started to focus their strategy towards this topic. And you can imagine that if you want to become a more impact-driven university, you also expect different kinds of activities of your academics, and then you also should make sure that they are recognized, appreciated, and rewarded for it. And that's the reason why these two topics are hosted with one program manager. And what we did is that with the Evaluating Societal Impact project is that we developed a whole bunch of tools to help people in the broadest sense of the word to think about and work towards societal impact in a more structured way. So it's about developing and writing your impact ambition and strategy. It has a game called Journey of Progress, which is based on theory of change models, but then only takes an hour, even less, to come up with the first idea of your theory of change. So we developed quite a lot of tools to facilitate also this cultural change and the mindset in thinking about impact and engagement and how you can shape it.
Thank you very much, Bianca. As you can hear, it's really an impressive transformation that is undergoing. It would be really interesting, I think, also to, I would love to be monitoring as well and seeing how and listening to the reaction also of the academic staff, etc., involved in this. It must be extremely interesting. I don't see any questions, so maybe a last point that we had thought it could be interesting to mention is again looking at the future. So you have already mentioned what is changing both at strategies and policy level. We know that there are a lot of political changes happening more in general, where there are new key priorities that are emerging all over Europe and the world. So we probably all agree that it's more important now than ever to put efforts into this movement that has started thanks to a lot of individual motivation. Let's be honest, Bianca, I remember that you mentioned, I heard you mentioning in the past that there was also a lot of a personal component of wanting to change things that also leads, we know that passionate people, passionate like you, Georgios and Bianca in this field also of course make a big difference, but we need also to keep also looking for broader support for these changes. So maybe thinking a little bit about these, what do we see as support opportunities or challenges that we can foresee in the coming future? So maybe, Georgios, what are your thoughts more on the European level?
I think I can only refer to the work of CoARA, and I can only urge all the colleagues that participate today, but also participate in reinforcing, to engage with CoARA and to try to follow, participate, or contribute in the activities. I think is very important. CoARA has worked in groups to which, okay, maybe you can contribute or maybe not, depends on the themes and on how they work each one. But in any case, you can be you can eventually have a look at the output and the material that will come out of all of this work in groups, and the work there should be a great aid for some and general contribution with toolkits, recommendations, reflections, and stock taking and overview and innovative ideas, etc. So that is something to look forward to and to keep an eye on. But at the same time, the CoARA also has national chapters, which for many of you would be very interesting. Maybe you can reach out to the colleagues who are involved in national chapters, maybe so you can participate, or maybe you can convince your organizations, if they are not part of national chapters, to actually become part of national chapters, because it is a job, it is a work that will pass necessarily from the national level. That is a lot of the action, let's say, or a lot of the issues will be decided at this level, not necessarily at the EU level. So, and also the national context is very important for universities and all for this kind of policies and procedures. So it would be good to be engaged in that, and to see at the same time what can be more contextualized, in the sense that on some occasions what CoARA proposes and what it wants to achieve, which makes perfect sense and is absolutely valid in terms of its orientation, in terms of goals, but that doesn't mean that it applies in the same fashion in its national context. For example, in some research systems in certain member states is not so easy, or at least not in the short term, is completely not feasible or envisageable to completely do away with quantitative indicators. Which, I mean, it is problematic in the sense that they are that they are being actually used, but at the same time the processes and the procedures, if you take away the quantitative indicators, may lead to worse situations whereby there's no transparency, there's no accountability, there's no objectivity in some ways. And generally, I mean, that is one angle. But generally, yeah, all the work that is being done, which is very important, can also benefit from contextualization. So I would say that, I mean, there is a movement going on and in operation, and there are many opportunities to contribute to that. And one important level is the national level. So if people are aware of that, and if people have the opportunity and the desire and the time, they should engage in it, or in any case, relay the messages to their own organization so that this can be amplified.
Thank you, Georgios. I think this is a really important message, that we should not just wait and see and hope that things will change, but we need to be part and contribute to this change. This is really important, especially at this moment. Bianca, so going on with what you were saying, and looking also for you at the future, what will hopefully, we know also in the Netherlands there are some political shifts, etc. But what can we hopefully imagine, and also how can we all, when maybe within our environments, try to push for something like this to happen?
Yeah. So I hope that over the last 5 years we initiated a culture change that is moving fast enough to keep moving, even in these challenging geopolitical times, and also challenging financial times. At least in the Netherlands, there is a lot of discussion going on about investments in higher education, for example. So that makes it difficult. And indeed, I agree that it's important to find each other at the national level, and not only in the chapters related to CoARA, but also in initiatives like recognition and rewards. You cannot do such a change on a local scale only in one university, because then academics primarily are concerned with, hey, are we the only one who are changing, or is everyone changing? Because I don't want to hurt my career. So joining up and getting together at a national level, or at least with a group of institutes that are closely connected to each other, and open up these conversations, is really important. It's a very complex cultural change that is not something like, okay, you plan out step A to Z and then it's done and then it happens. It's challenging. There are many influences that you have to deal with, and many challenges you will have to deal with, and also bridges you have to create. For example, between a top-down way of working and a bottom-up approach. So often we are thinking about the top-down route, because you have to get your executive board on board. The deans need to be on board. And of course, you need to create policy, but at the same time, you have to stay in touch with the people on the work floor, so the academics themselves, to hear what their concerns are, what they are worried about, and what they already see or don't see about from the policies. So there are people who think like, oh, but we wrote it down and we made agreements on it, so it's done. But that's not the case. You really need to bring the paper alive to make it really happening. And that's, I think, the phase that many universities are in right now. So many people wrote policies and things are put on paper, and for sure not 100%, but steps are taken. And now it's the challenge to bring it to life and really bring it to the work floor. And I hope that we can keep moving on that line of activities that we initiated. And don't underestimate the importance of international development. So especially for disciplines like economics, business, the international context is very important, whether it's about research in itself or open and responsible science and innovation. They really look to the international developments that are going on to when they have to decide whether they want to change or not at a local level. So that dynamic is interesting and also quite complex, because for a long time, the Netherlands was doing quite a lot, but slowly you see these kind of changes coming to life in other countries. For example, the Scandinavian countries are doing a lot in this field or domain. Yeah, so it's a challenge. You have to hold on. You need the support of the top management of your organization, but at the same time, you need to stay in touch with the academics themselves on the work floor.
Thank you very much, Bianca, for these powerful messages and also lived experiences that you have already been working with. We still have a little bit of time, so I'm going to see if I'd be curious at the same time to hear if there are any of the participants who wants to share any of their experience, challenges or success in relation to this topic, as well as check whether there are any questions within the audience. If you're too shy to ask, then you can, of course, also write them in the chat.
In the meantime, I have a small question for Bianca and then for Georgios. I will start with Bianca. I'm curious to know, because this is a very in the context of reinforcing, we think that it is important to have a repository of best practices or tools or resources that we call in reinforcing, to inspire other organizations, other institutions to replicate and adapt in their own context. Of course, your experience, of course, in our case on open responsible research and innovation. CoARA, of course, is a tool, is a network of exchanges between institutions working on research assessment. So I'm curious to know if, after sharing your experience, there was an effect of try to replicate and to take your experience as an inspiration and try to implement in further context what you are doing. So I would like to know if you have you can share stories of other territories, other institutions that are trying to do what you are already implemented.
Yeah, so all our tools, we share open access, and with a license that allows you to use it and adjust it as long as you don't commercialize it and as long as you keep referring to us as the original developers. And you see that, for example, the Journey of Progress really is picked up by a lot of international partners because we often present our tools and our way of working in settings like these, but also at conferences, because we want to create impact ourselves as well. And of course, our primary goal was to develop things for our own organization, but I think impact needs to trickle down and has this ripple effect. So we explicitly aim to have it open access and available for everyone. And you see that many institutions outside the Netherlands, but also inside the Netherlands, and not only academic partners, but also organizations in the public and more commercial domain are using the Journey of Progress to, in their team, open up the conversation about what is our ambition and how do we think we can reach it. So it's something we developed because we saw that people needed it. And then it appeared to be more successful than we anticipated.
And I suppose that also private funders like foundations, so every institution that could support research can easily adapt and use your tools and your instruments.
Yeah, we try to facilitate that as good as possible, but of course we have our limits as well. But yes, we try to do that. Yeah, for sure.
Thank you very much. And Georgios, a similar question, but in terms of scaling up at European level. So how a mechanism like CoARA can really be inspired by specific cases at national, local level and be scaled up at European level, even if there are some difficulties, as you mentioned before, in some specific member states. For instance, this idea of using qualitative indicators is not possible. They have complex infrastructure that needs to be revised from scratch. But how this kind of platform, networks, coalition can really work for be inspired by national experiences to be scaled up at European level to have a sort of uniformity across Europe.
I don't have a concrete answer in the how, but I mean, okay, as I mentioned, CoARA works with national chapters, and I think a lot of the information on the national regarding the national context and the possible innovations or experiments or pilots in there will be collected by the organizations, and the message will reach them, because there's obviously that is the purpose, to have such a kind of loop, not only pushing for change in the national level, but also receiving the messages. And eventually, I mean, in the next months and in the next years, the CoARA will be able to have a kind of toolbox available, which will feature a lot of the recommendations and work conducted by the working groups, but also by national chapters. So it will provide a lot of ideas also that will have been tested, or in any case will have come out of a more national context. So I invite you again to have a look, not now, but in the future, in the next month or year, at the CoARA toolbox, to see how that takes shape. At the same time, I will paste a report that we did, an assessment report that we conducted and published last year. It's an excellent report, taking stock of steps and activities put in place by European Union, I mean Horizon Europe funded projects, and also university alliances, which, well, generally speaking, should be interesting for the community to see what has been achieved, or where things are lagging, and what kind of areas are most in need of further attention, or in any case, generally what has taken place.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. I see still no further questions or comments. This is your last chance if anyone would like to join this conversation before we wrap up. If not, then I think we can finalize this interesting conversation. Thank you so much, especially for all the links, also information you have shared in the chat, I think also was very useful. Thank you, Bianca, for sharing your email. I really hope that this was inspiring for all of you, and especially that this shift, these changes will keep going in the near future. Thank you so much. I wish you a nice rest of the day, and after the summer we will be back again with further reinforcing insights session. So thank you to all, and have a good rest of the day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Bianca.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.